All right, guys, this is super sick. So we're spinning off of the Ask a Top Producer series, and we're expanding it to ask top producers of any industry, anyone who's killing it and succeeding in life. Our first guest, one and only, Jeff Iverson.
What's up, Ryan?
What's up? Thanks for coming on. We got some great questions for you to see how you got to where you are.
Cool. I'm ready.
Awesome. Okay, so if you had to sum it up, what would be, and I know this is a tough question, but what would be your top secrets or your biggest secret to your success in life and business?
Ooh, life and business. I mean, I think to summarize it, it's I've been fairly successful across multiple different industries, and what I've learned is that perseverance is key.
Okay.
I have to be able to put in the work without immediate gratification.
Right.
Because, things aren't always easy.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I have to be prepared to weather a storm and adapt to change and be willing to pivot, man. One of the worst mistakes I could make is to get comfortable.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I see
sense.
it all the time. I see people in different businesses feel like they've arrived, at some plateau, and they're just going to coast along, and then whatever it is, it could be legislation, it could be a law that's changed, it could be a change in technology, but if you're not ready to get uncomfortable and put in the work,
Right.
You could become irrelevant in lots of different industries.
That makes sense. So, I know with your back history, so I always think that the people typically who are great experience a great deal of diversity.
Yeah.
I feel like it's safe to say that. What would you say is the driving force that keeps you going? Because you don't have to work right now. I know that. So what keeps you grinding like you need to?
Well, my why isn't money.
Okay. Well,
it's not money. It's being of value, bringing value to people's lives.
Okay.
And that's in the treatment and recovery world. That's in my solar world. You know what I mean?
Right.
If my focus is simply money, then I've lost focus.
Wow. Okay. So I think that's honestly probably a big part of your success then, because I would say most people's focus is money, but you found your why. So your reason for doing what you do is so much deeper than someone who's doing it for money.
Yeah, the money has come naturally over the years from my desire to bring value and improve people's lives.
Right.
That's why, everything I've done to generate income is really wrapped around a purpose-driven mission. You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
That's just how it played out for me. You know what I mean? And everything I've been involved with, it seems like every couple of years, these industries kind of reinvent themselves.
Right.
You know what I mean? And not only do I have to make sure I've saved for a rainy day so I can weather the storm.
Right.
Because things change. That's another mistake I see people making a lot is, this quick money, it's quick to come, it's quick to go.
Yep.
And then what happens when things come to a standstill, or, a lot of people I see, they haven't prepared to weather a storm.
Right.
And then what you do, they find themselves looking for the next low-hanging fruit rather than being laser focused on what it is they're passionate about and what their why is. They're looking for the next quick way to make a buck.
Right.
And I'm not talking down on those people, you know what I mean? But that's just not how I operate.
Sure.
I'm so laser focused on the why and the mission that the money is just a byproduct of that. Right now we're going through a lot of changes in all the industries I'm in, with Medicaid and with, solar changes, right, with the big beautiful bill. And, I've had to pivot and reinvent the way we operate and do business multiple times over the years.
Right.
And I've seen a lot of people walk away from industries and then struggle to find their niche somewhere else just because they were in fear. Yeah. They hadn't prepared themselves mentally, financially, emotionally to deal with a shitstorm.
Right.
And that's how you become irrelevant.
So I think that one of the main things too, though, with you and what you've done, a lot of people get to a certain point and stop. But like you said, you have your purpose and your why. So you're continuously trying to add value, and that's the reason why you're in so many different industries.
Yeah.
That's sweet. One last question. This is I have to ask you this. Okay. So what was a point, or did you ever have a point when starting, your climb, where you were fuck, like this is too much, I can't do it, I want to quit? Or did like anything like happen that was super off-putting, or to like, you know, kind of get you to a point where you're like, I don't know if I could do this? Did you ever doubt yourself?
Absolutely. Especially in the beginning. You know, I got clean 20 years ago. My first entrepreneurial mission had to do with the treatment, you know, working in the treatment field.
Right.
And, you know, from zoning to licensing to working with healthcare quality and compliance, I hit every roadblock possible, you know, in every treatment center I opened.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's hard not to wake up with anxiety and fear, but there's ways to work through that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And you have to be able to like want to work through it to get to where you're going. I'll tell you a quick story.
Sure.
With Crossroads, 2 weeks before we were about to open, I was fully staffed, and we found out that the switchgear in the building went out. That's the electrical box. Yeah. And I was thinking it was going to be a quick, easy fix, maybe 2 weeks or whatever, was going to postpone our opening. And then I found out, no, like it has to be custom build. And it ended up being like a 2-month fix.
Oh, wow.
And so, you know, I was stuck in a situation where I had, you know, $700,000 worth of payroll a month. Wow. And no revenue. And like, what do? Those are those are character defining and life changing moments.
Wow.
And you know, I had hired a lot of people away from other facilities and whatnot, and I had to make the choice. Do I go out and I raise more money and keep this thing going, or do I shut it down and then, you know, start over? Like, I woke up, I talk to my team about this all the time. I felt like I was in a pressure cooker most days. You know what I mean? I have the ability to withstand a lot of pressure and a lot of stress, but like that's kind of an acquired skill over the years.
Yeah.
You know, and like obviously that's an extreme example, right? Sure. Of like what could happen. You got to be prepared for the worst, but you know, I did what was right for the people and for my employees, right, and for the community, and we stuck with it and made it happen.
Yeah, now it's very big, well-known facilities.
Yeah, where, you know, and a lot of, you know, people that go there and the employees don't really understand the history behind how hard it is to get something like that off of the ground. But it you know, looking back, if I would have said, you know, F it and quit with anything, like, am I happier knowing that I went through the storm and I was willing to be uncomfortable, right, and willing to go through that stress and willing to build that character to do the right thing, or am I just going to give up and quit? Right. How, you know, at the end of the day, which one of those scenarios makes me feel better about myself? Exactly. Being willing to go through the difficult times, being willing to persevere, and being so convicted in my mission that I'm willing to like do whatever it takes to get the job done. Lay it all out. You know what I mean?
And that's funny. I actually, whenever I talk to people, right, and it's funny. You know when you meet some people, you're like, look, even if they don't have anything, you're like, that dude's gonna make it. You know. So like, I met someone, they're like, man, I just have all this pressure and this is so stressful. I'm like, well, I mean, what do you expect? You're trying to do big stuff. If you have no pressure, you're not doing anything. Yeah. You know?
You do a lot in the real estate world. I know a real estate agent, a friend of mine, he got his license like 6 months ago. Okay. And I don't know what cloud he was living in, but I think he thought it was just like, I'm going to sell like 10 houses a month and I'm going to, you know what I mean? And 2 months in, he's like, dang, I haven't sold a house. So I'm going to find something else to do. I'm like, you didn't even give yourself a shot.
You gave it 2 months.
you think as a brand new real estate agent in this city, your first 2 months, you're just going to be like throwing all these deals and you're going to sit at a desk and just like navigate and make, you know.
And I think that's a great example. I feel like a lot of people have that perspective in life and business in general. They're like, yeah, I'm going to start this business and I'm going to make all this money and I'm going to be rich. But like that's not how it's going to happen.
Yeah, they get into the comparison game too, right? Like, you know, if you sell, you know, a $400,000 house, obviously you're going to make a different amount of money than if you sold a $5 million house. Right. And then they get into this comparison game, right, with online people. Like, I see this dude and he's posting every other day closing on a multi-million-dollar home, and like they think that it just came easy, or they just assume.
They do.
It came easy for this guy. He like, you know, he found this niche in high-end homes and he's just making a killing, and like, why can't I have that? You know, you can't have that because you're not willing to put in the work.
Exactly.
That's why.
If it was that easy, everyone would be doing it.
You don't know how many years he worked his ass off in the real estate industry.
Yep.
To get to where he's at. Stop comparing you to him, because you're not him.
And that's the social media issue, right? We talked about this earlier. Like, people see the social media, they see the end result, then they go out there and they try. But this is why I love what you said before, though. So say that I see something someone else is doing and I just go out and try it because I want to make a lot of money. I have no chance going up against a guy whose reasoning for doing it is his why and his purpose, like you said. Absolutely. You know, so I think that's like people's problems. You got to find your why and your purpose. And if you can do that, you'll kill it at anything you do.
Anything.
You know?
Anything.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Thank you very much for coming on. Jeff Iverson, man. I know you had to roll. That was fucking, he's a shit, though, I'm telling you.
When you came across your first adversity, you know, because I understand that it's a journey with adversity, perseverance. How did you build the risk tolerance and the mental fortitude to keep on going?
Well, when I started, I had nothing, and when I have nothing, I have nothing to lose. You know what I mean?
You might as well go all in.
That's pretty good.
What else is there?
So I was just like, you know, and it took a lot of mentors and coaches to help me overcome some of the mental challenges along the way. I'm not saying I just like did this all on my own.
Right.
But like that's the other piece to it, is having the humility it takes to be willing to like learn from people who've gone through what you're going through or what you're about to go through. You know what I mean? And so 20 years ago, when I was fresh off the streets, I had nothing except nothing to lose. So my options were not great.
Right, right.
So why wouldn't I? You know what I mean? Take the risk and just go all in.
And see, like, I think
it didn't come easy.
Well, this is why I'm actually really happy about this show. Are we rolling? This is good. This is why I'm happy. So I'm on this show, though. The reason why, like, I had other people in mind, but I was like, I want Jeff to come first. So, like, with this show, and I think this is where people are messing up online and on social. This is the one thing that I'm doing for me. Like, I'm listening. Like, I'm not just asking the questions. Like, I'm here to pick your brain and learn, hopefully, like, get your perspective and learn what you know, because you obviously know something, right? So, I mean, you do more than me. So, like, the thing is, though, is like, I think that's important, and we kind of mentioned that, though, right? So you have to have your purpose and your why, because that really hit home with me, right? But the one thing that I think that I learned from what you said, though, is you have to position yourself and put the right people in place, mentors, coaches, and have a team if you really want to succeed.
Yeah, like I can't think I have all the answers. You know what I mean?
You're not
that's where I see so many people fall off because they lack the humility to be teachable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Listen, I'm just going to be raw, honest. 20 years ago, I was a homeless drug addict. My first business was a treatment center that catered to the criminal justice population. I had a little under 3 years of sobriety.
When you did that?
And I had only been off probation, felony probation, for less than a year when I approached the courts about my idea to create a different type of treatment program for the criminal justice population. So imagine, like, I chose the most difficult, for me at the time, type of industry to get into.
Yeah.
Because most people just looked at me like, what are you talking about, bro? You're a felon. No, you were just in this court program. Now you want to compete with these established treatment providers that have been providing services to the drug courts for sometimes decades?
Wow.
And I'm not proud of this, but I'll tell you what happened.
Yeah, please.
Because I had the lived experience and I knew what I was doing from the perspective of the client, we ended up putting the other two major treatment providers out of business.
Wow.
That's saying something.
The treatment provider that I got clean with went out of business like 3 years after I started mine.
Really?
Because we stole all the contracts. We were that successful.
Yeah. And how was your at those places? Was it a positive experience? Did you like, you know what I mean? Like,
I knew.
So that's why.
I knew where the holes were in their processes.
Right.
And having the lived experience, I knew, like, I knew, no, you can't just send a guy like me to a treatment center 3 days a week for 2 hours a day and expect him to embrace it and get results. We need to hold their hands through this continuum, right? So like I was approaching things from a different perspective. And I was super passionate about results.
Right.
I wanted to be results driven and change people's lives.
Right.
You know what I mean? I wasn't, like, I was working in the limousine industry.
Right.
While I was doing this on the side. You know what I mean? I wasn't focused, I wasn't in it for the money, truly.
Right.
In fact, when the money was flowing and I could make a living off of it, like, I had a hard time taking a check. Because it was really something like that I wanted to do altruistically.
Right.
You know, I wanted to be able to give back. So like, you know, I had to, but I was a convicted felon. I was just off probation. And here I am talking to like our sheriff and our county commissioners and judges about my wild idea to create these programs that were not considered best practices.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Most people looked at me like, what do you know? You like didn't even barely graduate high school, but what I had was like 12 years of experience running the streets. I understood the mentality of the people we were trying to help and have just approached it in a different way.
Right.
And gotten good results.
See, that's like I mean, there's no better way to know your audience than you were the audience. So, I mean, the other places stood no chance.
So
honestly.
like, you know, I was getting into a highly regulated industry as a convicted felon. And you know what? Like, I never had one opportunity to experience what it was like for my felony to hold me back from achieving something.
Wow. Really? So that didn't hinder any plans that the fact that you were a felon?
I am the administrator on all of my facilities and I became the administrator of my health facility, which is regulated by the Department of Healthcare Quality and Compliance. It's the same agency that regulates hospitals.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, we were dealing with government contracts and Medicaid. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people might not have even been willing to like take the risk.
Try.
Did I have to go in front of a couple panels and explain myself and my history? Yes. Was it embarrassing? I got through it. You know what I mean? But no, my felony never prevented me from doing anything. And now all these felons out there have this mindset that like, there's no opportunity out there for me. You know, I might as well go back to my old, you know.
Oh, ways.
No, that's bullshit. You know, so I had no idea what I was doing. I was so convicted in what I wanted to do and so focused on those outcomes that it happened.
Damn.
That's where I learned, you know, the things I've learned, whether it was out there on the streets or in my early years in business, are way more valuable than any degree I could go out there and get.
Of course, life experience.
You know what I mean?
And do you apply this are you open with if you don't mind me asking, with your kids about this? Do they know?
Of course.
Okay, because sometimes, you know, people...
No, my kids know everything.
So they know.
I have the best relationship with my kids, and we communicate very well. Like, they talk to me about everything. You know what I mean? And I make sure that they know, like, just because I did it and made it out doesn't mean you're going to do it and make it out. But you have the freedom of choice.
Wow.
And if they do decide to do some stupid things, I want to be the guy they come to talk to
First,
about
yeah.
it. That's the most, like, I didn't have parents that I could go to and talk about things I was going through because of the religion we were in and all this other nonsense, you know what I mean? But yeah, I'm damn straight. I want to be the guy that they go and talk to about sex, drugs, rock and roll, whatever it is.
Right.
You know, I don't want them getting the answers out there.
Yeah, who better than
their
your
friends?
dad?
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I make sure that we got a good relationship.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
got one last one. In your early days of you starting out, how important did you have a support system, and how important was that to you?
I had an amazing support system that taught me all about, at the time, you know, work-life balance, the need for emotional, spiritual, physical balance. I didn't quite get the physical part right away because I was so like focused on other things. You know, my physical taking care of myself physically happened later on in my journey. But yeah, I had a lot of mentors and coaches and people around me that I could talk to. You know what I mean? I was really involved in a 12-step recovery support group. And it's not necessarily the things you learn there, it's the connections you make. You know, with such a diverse group of guys. And like, there's a lot of successful people in this city that are in recovery.
I'm sure.
And I found meetings where there was successful people, and like I became a part of that tribe. And you know, there's judges, attorneys, you know, executives.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of people in recovery from drugs and alcohol. And when I started to meet some of them, like it started to change my life too. Like proximity is power.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Absolutely.
When you start sitting at the table with people where you think you don't deserve to be, you know you're at the right table.
Ooh.
You know what I mean?
I like that. I like that.
If you're sitting at a table with people who are just like you all the time and think just like you and have the same life experience as you, you're at the wrong table.
Damn.
And I had to become comfortable being uncomfortable. You know, a lot of people call it imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
It's really just being willing to be uncomfortable at tables where you feel like you don't deserve to be. You know what I mean?
So do you feel like you deserve to be at them now, though?
For sure.
Okay. So it's funny how that shifts. So like for myself, real quick, like there was times when I felt like that too. You know, like, and they say a lot of people have like inferiority complex or whatever. Yeah. But like I'm big on rewiring and reframing. So like I used to not like to film in public. I thought it was weird, right? Mm-hmm. But then I reframed it. So I'm like, you know what? I'm a star, and these people are. I don't mean this in like a brag way. This is how I had to train my brain. I'm like, I'm a star, and everyone who sees me is lucky to be watching me film.
That's
and
right.
then once I started doing that, we're all good.
That's not arrogance. That's mindset.
Yeah, and it works.
It's just. I'll give you an example. Like I see content creators out there like acting silly or whatever in public. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But that's how they're getting their views and making a shit ton of money.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Yeah, like you know what I mean? I'm
works.
like, I wish I had the balls to go out and just be silly and do stuff, you know, like whatever. Like I'm just saying, like they got to work through that, like being uncomfortable in public like that too.
Yeah.
But that's what people want to see.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And that's what stops the majority. You know, I work with a lot of agents all the time, and they're like, well, I know I need to make videos, but like that like fear, and it's honestly the fear of judgment, in my opinion, right? So that fear is what stops so many people from growing, because with social now, especially in real estate, you have to do it. But that fear just hinders them from growing because they just won't do it.
Some of the stuff I like to like watch most are these guys that go in public and just ask random people questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That guy blew up the one. He's like, hey, how'd you make all your money? Like that. Yeah, that guy's killing.
Yes. You know what I mean?
And that's
he's doing something that others aren't willing to do, or a lot of, there's a lot of them now, but
yeah, now there's tons.
Yeah.
Well, the greatest thing I learned from this, Jeff got roll, but this is really the greatest thing I learned from this now. I'm going to spin this on everything I do now, because my dad always taught me you can learn something from anyone in life. So I try to take like a small part of every person. There's always something you can learn.
Yeah.
So my thing now that I learned from this, I'm going to take and put like my purpose and my why into my business. So I have to integrate it because I still have bills, right? So I can't just go straight to it, but I'm going to integrate it and interweave it. And that's what this show's about, though. Like, this isn't for you guys. This is for me. So, cool. This is going to be the new thing, though. I like this. This is a good one.